Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I was digging through my notes and I figured today, inshallah ta'ala, share with you some things about the meanings of the word ayah. I'll dig through my older notes and probably tomorrow or day after we'll talk about the word ilah. So today is just about the word ayah, inshallah. First of all, I wanted to say some things that are maybe a little bit philosophical, but still important to understand. The Quran, its ideas are rooted in this one concept called ayah. And the way, if you study the Quran comprehensively and try to come to a conclusion about what ayah is, it's very hard to say what isn't an ayah. Basically, all human experience is an ayah. Allah describes history as ayat. Allah describes that there are ayat inside of creation. Allah describes His revelation as ayat. Allah describes what you see inside of yourself and the experiences you have inside of yourselves, down to your emotions, like the love felt between two spouses. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ. Or la'ayah. So you have ayat in human experience, in emotion, in history, in knowledge, in revelation, in the physical world around you, in the heavens and the earth, etc. In other words, all reality, that's really the way to put it, all reality is not understood from the Quran's point of view if you don't see it as an ayah. It's actually the Quran's way of unifying our understanding of all of reality is through ayah. Okay, so now the term itself, the word itself, commonly translated as verse or sign, which sign is okay. I think sign is, at least it's part of the meaning of the word. So it's good to look at that way. But it's also important to note how the Arabs use the word and how, what origin this word comes from. And inshallah ta'ala, that offers us some insight into the way Allah Azza wa Jal uses it in the Quran. So, first thing is actually the whole of everything that is of value to you in Arabic is actually also called an ayah. So they'll say, for example, if'al bi ayati kada, do this with everything that you have at your disposal. Bi ayati kada. So all of everything that matters, that has any purpose or meaning. That's why they say, for example, they used to have a caravan that traveled and they stopped to get some rest. Right? And when they get some rest, they set up a campfire and they roast some meat and things like that. And they eat and drink and sleep or whatever, then it's time to move. When it's time to move, they take whatever food is left over. They take their dishes and pots and pans. They'll take everything of value. But they'll leave the firewood that's already burnt. They'll leave some stones. So when somebody walks by, they see these are the remains of a group that was here, but nothing of value is still here. Everything of value they took. Everything that's useless they left behind. So they'll say, خَرَجَ الْقَوْمُ بِآيَاتِهِمْ. The people left with their ayah, which means everything that was valuable to them. In other words, Allah is saying every human experience, every bit of history, every bit of knowledge, everything that He created actually has value, has purpose. Nothing is valueless. People say things like, before I made tawbah, I made lots of mistakes in my life. I wasted all those times in my career. I wasted my time in college, etc., etc. As a matter of fact, if Allah brought you to tawbah at a certain time, all of your previous experiences are an ayah for you. They have value too. You may not be proud of them, but they still have some value. As a matter of fact, maybe their value is that they led you to tawbah. Maybe without those experiences, your tawbah wouldn't be as intense as it is. Maybe without those experiences, you wouldn't be able to relate to someone else who's going through a struggle as you were going through a struggle, etc. Right? So nothing is without value. Then it's actually harf istifham, ay. It's the one of the most powerful words for inquiry in the Arabic language, ay, which is which. How do you distinguish something? Comes from the same root as ayah. So the idea behind ayah is actually that which is distinct, that which gives purpose and gives definition. This is important because in philosophy, especially in Greek philosophy, you talk a lot about abstracts, right? You talk about forms and you talk about these ideas that don't exist. There's a lot of what if, and you just stay in the realm of what if and of hypothesis. But in Islam, in the Quran, Allah wants us to be very distinct and very specific and very tangible. He points at reality that exists. The focus in the Quran is not on what if, the focus in the Quran is on what is. While a philosopher is going to talk to you about what if this happened, what if life was like this, what if all reality was just a figment of our imagination, what if, and the Quran will talk about look at the bird, look at the mountain, look at these ruins in history, look at what is instead of what if, right? So it's rooted in that which is distinctive, which can be clearly identified, not something that's ambiguous or fuzzy. Then they say ay ismun lil jiha. The word E or A also is used for direction, particular purpose. It's, sometimes you can have a lot of information, and this information leads you in this direction, that information leads you in that direction, that information leads you in that direction. Yeah? But everything that Allah calls an ayah leads you in the same direction. It actually leads you in the same direction. That's why the verb that is derived from the word ayah is ta'ayya yata'ayya. That's the verb from it, which is to head in a particular direction. All the ayat of Allah lead in the same direction. The ayat of revelation lead you in the same direction. The ayat of creation lead you back to Allah in the same direction. The ayat within yourselves, your own experiences lead you in the same direction. They all lead you back to Allah. Allah is not leading humanity in different directions. As a matter of fact, if you appreciate His ayat, all humanity will find one and the same direction, back to Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's part of the meaning or the implications of the word ayah. Ismun lil jiha. أي كلمة التعجب مثل أي رجل زيد. أي is actually a word also for being like impressed with something. One of the ways you can say what a guy in Arabic is أي رجل. What a dude. Wow, he's amazing. أي kitab actually means what a book. You use that as an expression of how amazed you are. What Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying is that the world around us, if you give it a chance, it's actually amazing. The revelation He's given you is amazing. The life He's given you is amazing. The opportunity He's given you is amazing. In other words, because our entire reality is ayat, our entire reality is something that is optimistic and positive. It's not negative. It's something we find amazing. There are people who have a worldview where the entire world is dark and gloomy and depressing and there's nothing that's ever good. You have entire genres of music and art that are dedicated to how ugly life is. The post-impressionism and all of it. And this guy paints this big giant painting that they're selling for $500,000 and it's just black and patches of gray and they're looking at it and you're trying to find meaning in it. Like you actually know what it means. Nobody knows what it means. The guy who did it doesn't know what it means. And then you ask him and he's like, this is the depth of darkness in my soul. And how there's no hope. I was like, yeah, I like it. I'll give you a lot of money for that. I want to stay depressed at home. Look at this painting. There'll be entire genres of music that are depressing. Life has no meaning. It has no purpose. My life sucks. I only have 10 cars, etc., etc. And they'll sing it, nothing means anything. No one loves me. No one likes me, etc. I wish I was dead, etc., etc. The entire genres of music dedicated to what? Nothing impresses you. Nothing amazes you. Nothing moves you. And by the way, this is an important side comment to make because I do want to talk a little bit about the times in which we live. We live in some sociologists have commented on this and they say actually we live in an age that is of increased cynicism. And what that means, cynicism is a hard word, I know. I'll make it easy, inshallah. It's basically you're not impressed with anything. It's very hard to impress you. It's very hard for you to be marveled, like for you to feel marveled by something. You are overexposed to so many special effects and so many outrageous things that when amazing things are right in front of you, you just go, eh. There are people before you, and there are people in the world even today, they have meat once in a year on Eid. And then you're walking around the mall and you're like, do I want barbecue chicken or do I want fried or do I want this food, this one, the sauce could have been a little bit, And if you take one of those guys from one of those villages and he has any one of those, he has your leftovers. He'd be like, that's the most amazing food I ever had in my life. That one time I bit that chicken, chicken, So what's happened to us is we are so inundated with choice that actually we don't appreciate any of them. There's so much choice that we don't appreciate any choice. You have so many shoes, you don't appreciate any of them. You want the next pair. You have so many games, you don't appreciate any of them. Kids have so many toys, they don't appreciate any of them. You know? You go to so many resorts and vacations and hotels, You ever see people sit on an airplane for the first time? They put the belt on, they take it out, they put it on. They almost put the life vest on. The air stewardess has to go, no, that's not a gift. That's not an Eid gift. Put that back. You know? And then there are people who fly all the time. We're 10,000 feet in the air, flying through the clouds, looking at the planet below, taking a journey that used to take years, now in hours. But you know, we have a view of the earth that no human being before us ever even had. But you're flying and you're above the clouds and it's sunny. And the plane starts landing and it goes under the clouds and it's raining. You saw two sides of the sky over the course of a few seconds. And you're like, flight's late. You know? That's all you're thinking. It's so amazing, isn't it? That we have these incredible experiences in life, and yet we're just not moved by any of them. The idea of ayah is actually you appreciate and you're marveled at things that deserve that you be marveled at. You marvel at them. That's ayah. You know? And you know, it's part of being cool now. It's not just our everyday attitudes. It's actually part of being cool that nothing impresses you. Right? You're the coolest person in school if you're never excited. Whatever. Yeah, I know. You're just too cool to be excited about something or be moved by something. And of course, crying, in our day and age, crying is a sign of weakness. If a kid is crying in school in America, everybody picks on him. Oh, what happens to Mary? You want to go home to mommy? But crying is a natural human emotion. Feeling embarrassed is actually an expression of the fact that you have dignity. Feeling sadness is a natural, healthy emotion. But now some of these emotions, because you want to be cynical and you want to be cool, these emotions are being suppressed. They're being denied. So these kids are being denied their basic emotions, right? And when you deny your basic emotions, then you start losing your humanity. And then you wonder why you have shootings inside schools. And you have kids, these people doing things you can't imagine. Why would somebody do this? It's not revenge. It's not money. There's no logical explanation. How did they lose their humanity? There are some fundamentals to this term, this term ayah. It's supposed to bring you to tears. It's supposed to make you cry. There's nothing wrong with a person crying. There's nothing wrong with someone seeing something incredible and being moved. You know? That's captured even inside the word ayah. Then it's adatun nida wa tanbih. That's why the word ya or ya ayyuha comes from the same origin. Ya ayyuha, like ya ayyuha rajul. And ay is considered adatun tanbih, which means it's there to get your attention. Every ayah deserves attention. Everything is of value. Everything is heading in a particular direction. Everything, if you pay attention to it, you will find something amazing in, and it is calling for your attention. When does humanity stop appreciating the ayat? When humanity stops paying attention. This is the idea, the entire idea of aql. The idea of using your mind is to pay attention, to look at the world around you and pay actual attention. That's why the losers on Judgment Day, may Allah not make us any of us from them, they're like, لَوْ كُنَّا نَسْمَعُ أَوْ نَعْقِلُ. If we just heard and we thought about it. If we were just paying attention to the world around us. That's why Allah says, أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. Why don't you see? Why don't you think? Why aren't you looking around? Why aren't you thinking? Why aren't you reflecting? The only kind of people who don't reflect are the people who don't pay attention. And that's why Allah compares these cynical, or not, rather in this case cynical, but heedless people to actually cows. Cows don't pay attention. Cows they're just chewing on their thing and standing there. And, there's sometimes cows are near the highway and the car just goes right by. And the cow, what happens to the cow? Nothing happens to the cow. It's still chewing its thing. It's chilling. Every other animal reacts. A bird flies away. A rat goes under. A deer runs towards the car. Obviously, he's not a smart animal, but but at least they have some reaction. But cattle, أُولَٰئِكَ كَالْأَنْعَامِ بَلْ هُمْ أَضَلُّ, they have no reaction. They're dulled senses. Their senses are completely dulled, you know? And so it's a danger when we can't even appreciate what an ayah is. Because if you can't appreciate what an ayah is, the entire reality, all of reality loses its purpose. You know the word ay in Arabic, ay actually also means يعني, meaning. هذه الكلمة أي تلك الكلمة. Right? This word means that. You know, ay is actually similar to, if you want to remember that one, IE in English is like ay. Okay? That is to say, meaning, and you know what that does? It gives every single part of reality purpose and meaning. Not just does it have direction or value, it has meaning. It has substance. You know, it's something to be considered. No experience in your life is meaningless. No opportunity is meaningless. No creation of Allah is meaningless. You know, and that's again inside the word. Like the choice of this word to make it the central term of the Quran and through it describe all reality is just mind-boggling how Allah chose this one word, you know. And just even the meanings of it within the Arabic language. And then of course, I'll keep going. E in Arabic is actually one of the words for yes. Na'am. You guys have heard na'am before? Another way of saying na'am in Arabic is E. Okay, you want to go eat food? E. But it's actually na'am bila shak. It's yes without a doubt. Yes, absolutely. In other words, the word ayah, embedded in its core meanings, is conviction. Is actually yes, absolutely. You arrive at a conclusion and you are convinced of that conclusion. You know the difference between that and philosophy? When you are convinced of one philosophy today, you are convinced of another philosophy tomorrow. You are convinced of one theory today, another theory tomorrow. But when you arrive at a conclusion using the ayat, it is as though you arrive at E. I'm settled. I'm happy. I'm done exploring. I'm completely at peace with where I am. And I'm absolutely convinced. I was talking to some students who were philosophy majors, non-Muslims, and they were asking me about my beliefs. And I said, I'm completely settled in my beliefs. I'm completely happy what I believe. And I've explored philosophy in my college years, and I arrived at the Quran, and through its ayat, I hadn't read this meaning before. I was just talking to them, and they're like, "You're so narrow-minded. You know, you should keep your doors, keep your options open, and continue to explore and think." And I was like, I never said I don't explore and think. I said there are certain things, though, that I've arrived at that have given me complete conviction, and there's no reason for me to check those again. That's like you checking whether or not gravity still works every day. Why don't you keep an open mind and just go off a cliff? Like, there are certain things that you're settled, you're good with those, you're not going to jump off the railing, you're going to take the stairs. Right? That's a reality you're comfortable with now. You tried it when you were little, you went to the hospital, you had a cast on your leg. You're done with that. You experienced it already. So in the guise of talking about something, just keep an open mind, there are certain realities that nobody keeps an open mind on. They arrive at them and they're comfortable with them, and that's settled. And that's within the meaning of E, to have to arrive at that conclusion without doubt. And so ayah also means alama. Asluha ayah, actually, they say. That the original is that the word was ayah, and then it became ayah, and it is a alama, it is a sign. It is an indication of something. What that signifies then to us is every ayah is actually not a goal, it is a means to something else, like a sign. When a sign says, jalan this way or that way, or when it says damansara that way, or it says, whatever, Puchajaya that way, the sign is not your destination. The sign is just telling you you're getting closer to your destination. You keep following the signs, the more you follow them, the closer to your destination you get, isn't it? The ayat of Allah are like milestones. Every time you reflect on an ayah, you're getting closer to a destination. And as you reflect on it, it leads you to other ayat that lead you closer to your destination. These are all signs, and signs are part of a journey. Because without signs, you don't know where you're headed. This again goes back to the idea of an ayah being direction, jiha. Right? You can't go in the proper direction if you don't have the right kinds of signs. So ayat are a means to an end. They are not the end in and of themselves. This is also very powerful because everything in our life is not the end. Nothing in it is the end. Everything is the means. The ayat of Allah are a means to reach Allah Himself. The ayat are not the end. The ayat are this incredible gift from Allah, the means to that end. The same way all of creation, people get stuck in creation. That becomes their end. They want a beautiful house. That's the end goal, the house. They want that car. Like, I really love the Panamera. I want a Panamera. But that becomes the end. That's all you want. These things in life can never be the end. They have to be a means to something more. And that's, again, within the ayah because it's just a sign. All of this around you is just signs that lead you to other signs, that lead you to other signs, and you finally lead to your destination. Then last couple of meanings inshallah. تأي شيء تعمد آيته أي شخصه وآية الرجل شخصه. It's the identification of something. Ayah, actually, they say the inner being of someone is their ayah, meaning your actual identity. It's identity. So through ayat, we find out who we really are. You correctly identify something, and you correctly identify yourself. And ta'ayya also means qasada, to have goal, to have a purpose, to have intent. Without ayat, you and I don't have a purpose in life. We don't have a goal. Because, when you have a sign to a sign to a sign, your goal is to get from this sign to that sign. And then to that sign, and then to that sign. And without these ayat, you have no goal. That's why the verb ta'ayya bima'na qasada. And so, now finally, I want to just share with you what this can do to our study of the Quran. You're learning, لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي يُوسُفَ وَإِخْوَتِهِ آيَاتٌ لِلسَّائِلِينَ. In Yusuf and his brothers, there are ayat. In Yusuf and his brothers, there are ayat. Now, maybe without understanding this, you would think, we have to learn a lot of lessons from Yusuf alayhi salam. He's a prophet. Everything he did is valuable. We should pay attention to what he said, what he did, how he dealt with situations. All of that's true. But Allah didn't say there are ayat in Yusuf only. Allah said there are ayat in Yusuf and there are ayat in his brothers. But his brothers are bad guys. They're the ones who did the whole shirt thing. And then the whole lying to their dad thing. They did a lot of stuff. Allah is saying there are ayat in his brothers. In other words, don't just pay attention to what you think is valuable. There are things you might overlook. Pay attention to those too. The villain will teach you the lesson. Fir'aun will teach us many ayat. We're going to learn a lot of ayat from Fir'aun. We're going to learn a lot of ayat from shaitan. We will. That's why he's mentioned in the Quran. If mentioning him was not of value, if we had nothing to learn from him, and from what he does and how he acts, there's no reason to mention him in Allah's book. Those are all ayat. But my favorite is actually when Allah mentions things like وَالذَّارِيَاتِ ذَرْوَى, the winds that sail, the winds that blow. The winds that blow are ayat. So valuable that Allah swears by them. Now I go outside and I feel the breeze, and it's supposed to be something of meaning, something of purpose, something that's how does the breeze gonna bring me closer to Allah other than it's a hot day, it feels good. But actually it's the same wind that when Allah decides to press the accelerator, that same wind can destroy entire cities. And that same wind, when He holds it back, it can give you relief. And that same wind can bring pollen and bring you life, bring plant life. All of plant life around us is actually because of the wind. It's that same wind that's delivering the clouds. The same wind that I'm feeling on my face. As a matter of fact, when I feel the wind on my face, I'm reminded of how I'm being sustained on this planet. And how Allah can take me whenever He wants. And not just me, all of humanity. And He doesn't need some special army. All He needs is the wind. He's done it before. He's done it before. There are winds that came and took out entire towns. That's happened before, tornadoes. So subhanallah, even that wind, it changes the way I feel about it, how I think about it, because now that became an ayah. That became an ayah, So it's this remarkable terminology of the Quran that if you pay attention to, it's just your view of life changes, your view of the study of the book changes, your attitude towards yourself and the people around you changes. Some of you are in difficult situations at home. Some of you are in difficult situations financially. Your view of even that changes. This even has some purpose. This has some meaning. This is leading me to something bigger. Because they're making a lot of money or solving all my problems, that's not my goal in this life. There's something bigger going on. And I have to make the most of these ayat. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us of those who benefit from His ayat. One last comment I want to make. Allah actually, technically, for the most part, with maybe one exception, Allah does not call creation ayat. Allah says there are ayat in creation. Inna fi dhalika la ayah. Okay, with very little exception, for the most part in the Quran, the mountain is not an ayah. There's an ayah inside the mountain. This is very important. That means that everybody who sees the mountain does not see an ayah. But there are some people who are looking at the mountain to find what? Find an ayah, and then they will find it in it. You won't find ayat around you unless you're looking. You won't. The sky is not an ayah, it has ayat in it. The bird is not an ayah, it has an ayat in it. And not just one ayah, it has many ayat in it. It has many ayat. One of my favorite ayat, oh my God. I know I said I would finish. Oh my God. He says, هُوَ الَّذِي أَخْرَجَكُم مِّن بُطُونِ أُمَّهَاتِكُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا. He took you out of the bellies of your mothers and you didn't know anything at the time. So we were inside the belly of our mother. And when we were inside the belly of our mother, we were completely helpless. Yes? As a matter of fact, before we were in the belly of our mother, all we were was a drop that impregnated our mother. That's all we were. This insignificant thing in this universe, that's her body. Her body is actually this universe, and I'm this microscopic thing that exists, that is given life by Allah, isn't it? Now what happens in the next ayat, Allah says, didn't you look at birds, fi jawwis sama? In the middle of the sky, have you ever seen birds? And I used to wonder, why is this ayah right after that ayah? It's actually reminding you that you and I were so insignificant inside our mother, just like a bird is almost nothing compared to what? The sky. So every time you see a bird fly in the air, it should remind you of how insignificant you were as a baby. That's what it just completely changes how I look at birds. I don't look at birds the same way again. I say, oh, baby. It changes my attitude. This is what Allah does, the way He organizes His ayat. He makes you reflect on things that otherwise seem completely disconnected, but through His ayat, that become one whole holistic reality. Subhanallah. May Allah Azza wa Jal once again make us appreciative of His ayat and make us of those who look at reality around them and actually find the ayat in them. Barakallahu li wa lakum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you benefited. I'd like to encourage you to actually embark on a comprehensive journey into the Quran. I've done a video translation and explanation of the entire Quran. It's called Quran Cover to Cover. I'd like you to check it on Bayyinah TV. Just do a little bit of it every day, and before you know it, you'll have gone through the entire Quran in translation with me. Hope you can take part. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.